On YouTube Live today. All right, namaste and welcome everyone for today's webinar on Ānvīkṣikī, a strategic thinking framework for leaders. It is always my pleasure to host these webinars. I am Ankur Patel, the Director of Outreach for Hindu University of America. And joining us today, we have Dr. Radhakrishnan Pillai and Shri Pranav Patel. Thank you both for joining. Amazing to have you on. And to our guests, please let us know where you are zooming in from, and we'll get started. Oh, just clicked. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Sorry, we're not going to be able to go on YouTube Live today, but we'll get started with our webinar on Ānvīkṣikī, right? So we know that the world is changing, there's deep uncertainty, there's shifting values. And for us who are global citizens, if you're in India or in America or you came from India, we know there's whole difference of values. But regardless, ancient wisdom can serve as a reliable compass. And so in today's webinar, we're going to dive into the enduring leadership philosophy of Chanakya, of course, grounded in his classic work, Arthashastra, and explores powerful relevance for modern leaders across business, public service, academia, and community life. It was amazing when I learned about Chanakya for the first time, right? He actually stands alongside figures like Sun Tzu and Machiavelli as one of history's most influential thinkers on power, governance, and strategy. Yet his vision is both broader and more deeply rooted in ethical responsibility. And I'm not going to talk too much about Sun Tzu and Machiavelli, but Chanakya integrates statecraft, economics, leadership psychology, diplomacy, and ethics into a single coherent framework. And so we're going to dig into this with this key phrase of Ānvīkṣikī. And our guests have studied so much and written and do lectures, as Radhakrishnanji was saying, across India and across the world. And they've taught this course at HUA many times. So we're going to talk about some of the key leadership principles from the Arthashastra. Of course, Dharma, ethics and duty; Niti, strategy and policy; Artha, management of resources and prosperity; and Ānvīkṣikī, which is the science of inquiry. So with that, let me introduce our faculty and our guests. And whether you're a business executive, a public servant, an organizational leader, or just someone interested in ethical decision making and strategic vision, we're going to have a wonderful webinar for you today. So let me introduce our faculty, our panelists, just briefly. Dr. Radhakrishnan Pillai, he's in our community education division. He holds a PhD in philosophy. He's a well-known and renowned author, a speaker, leadership mentor who's specializing in Kautilya's Arthashastra and Indian management. He's literally written the book, everything from corporate Chanakya to, I think there's over 20 books he's written, bringing Chanakya's ideas and thoughts into the modern context and in making it contemporary. And then, of course, we have Shri Pranav Patel. He, I think, just left his position as the director of the School of Ultimate Leadership, Seoul, in Gandhinagar in Gujarat. He is a passionate leadership developer. He brings extensive experience in leadership training, organizational development, research, finance, and people-centric solution. Pranav Bhai, I like to say, we've had lots of different conversations across the years, and we have so much more to offer and do. And this webinar is just a little glimpse into it that I'm glad to be a part of. And thank you everyone for joining. Dr. Rajni Bomakanti from Rockville, Maryland. Glad that you're here with us. Vijay Kane, a stalwart from Houston. Thank you for joining. And to all of our guests, fill out the poll. Let us know if you've taken a course before, if you've joined a webinar before, and put your questions in the Q&A box. We'll have a session at the end. But with that, let's get into our webinar. What is Ānvīkṣikī and how do we apply this strategic thinking framework and what is it? How does it develop and take us through that whole process? So maybe I'll give it to Pranav Bhai to give us a little bit more context, and then of course Radhakrishnan ji will deliver his. I love hearing you deliver your thoughts and nuggets and presentation on this. So looking forward to all of this. Thank you. Pranav Bhai? Let me just ask you to unmute.
Yep. Am I audible now?
Yes.
All right. So thank you very much. Really an honor once again to be here at HUA's webinar that we are doing regularly and share these ideas and thoughts of Kautilya and Chanakya, as we say, with all of you here. We've been doing this for a while now. This is, I think, at least 2.5 years that we've been doing. We started post-COVID, and the journey just goes on and on and on. And it's becoming, I would say, brighter and brighter as we are going and doing more different topics on Arthashastra and also exploring Arthashastra in a different manner. So glad to have been doing this with you at HUA. I would like Dr. Pillai to share his thoughts as well, and then we'll go on to the presentation.
Thank you so much, Ankurji and Pranav sir. We have been 2 Patels and 1 Pillai. We call this webinar as 3P model. We academicians like to put everything on frameworks. So 2 Patels and 1 Pillai. But as you know, most of you are joining from US. Patel is a very successful community. And not only in the business field, of course, in the business field, it's quite popular, the Patel Motel model. Yet, I will tell you that, I have studied a lot about Indian communities, and there are a lot of dimensions among various communities, including the Patel community, where we find them as political leaders. Of course, the most famous Sardar Patel. Then we go on to see academicians in the field, bureaucrats, and various other fields also. So let's not limit any particular community in India and put them into a box. And so is every community and whatever you belong to. Very important, since we are doing this webinar on a topic of Ānvīkṣikī, let me also bring in a very important perspective that what you'll be learning today is not something that we have invented. Like, many of them believe that innovation, disruption, no. We'll be definitely showing you what not only Chanakya spoke about, but what the Vedic culture represents. So before we start, for all those people who are wondering, how come I have this, what is called salt and pepper model? So somebody says, oh, you started growing a beard. No, it's a very interesting Hindu practice that I'm following right now. Since I come from the Kerala origin, many of you know this very popular state in India, I am going to a very famous temple in Kerala called as Shabrimala. I'm sure many of you must have heard about it. And in our Hindu practices, in Indian culture, pilgrimage is part of our spiritual journey. So I'm going to the Ayyappa temple, and one of the practices that our Guru Swami, who is supposed to be the leader of the group, we are around 18 people who are going together. And one of the practices is a vrata that you take, a kind of a discipline of, following a certain rituals and practices of 41 days. One of them is not shaving. So it's not growing a beard, but it is making sure that, it is visibly seen to others that, you are a Swami. Before we get into Ānvīkṣikī, I would say it's not just about the Ayyappa temple. As an academician, since most of you will be interested in knowing cultures, you'll be surprised that in India, these practices are very common. I was discussing yesterday with one of my professor friends. I'm in Rajkot right now. So she was telling me this kind of system is there even in the Sindhis, in the Marwadis, when they go to a spiritual place. And my wife, who's also doing her PhD in temple tourism, told me the exact practice of going to a place and following this discipline happens in Maharashtra in what is called as the Varkari Sampradaya. I don't know if you're aware of it, the very famous Pandharpur Vitthal temple. So there, when you go, you call every person who's going equal to God, and you call them Mauli. Mauli means mother. And then here, when we go to Ayyappa temple, you call every particular person as Swami. All the practices are almost same. There's a concept of Nam Sankirtan, where you take the Lord's name. There's a concept of Aarti Bhajan twice a day. And remember this very interesting practice which I discovered. We have been told to practice and see divinity everywhere. Nobody in this particular group that you go is big or small. For example, we have a 13-year-old boy who's part of a group, and he actually becomes a leader, and all of us have to bow down to him and take his blessings every single day. Now, this is a parampara that's there in the Varkari Sampradaya also, where we actually practice divinity in various forms at the physical level, mental level, definitely at the intellectual level and spiritual level. So starting from the beard, let's go inside the brain. So I have got some extra hair which will go away after the pilgrimage. But Pranav sir has got no hair. So in the consulting field, as they say, either you should have white hair or you should have no hair. So you got both the categories. Thank you, Ankur sir, for connecting. And definitely we'll be learning about one of the greatest, I would say, frameworks of strategic thinking that Chanakya taught, that is Ānvīkṣikī today. Over to you, Pranav sir.
Thank you very much, sir. It was really glad to hear about your practice of the Sabrimala Ayyappa Darshana, which you are planning to go, and the practice behind that. Let's go back to the topic which we are here for and explore Ānvīkṣikī, which we are looking at as a topic for the day. I'm going to bring up the slides where we'll just look into what Ānvīkṣikī is all about and then discuss it over. So yes, this is what we are doing today. Ānvīkṣikī strategic thinking framework for leaders. And we use the word strategic thinking framework. Why is it? We'll get into that. We'll understand what Ānvīkṣikī is all about. Now, this word Ānvīkṣikī, I'm sure a lot of you would have heard it before or not heard before. For people who have not heard, it's one of the very, very well discussed and researched word in our Shastras, for that matter. In fact, Nyaya Shastra, when we study, there is a lot of contemplation, deliberation on what Ānvīkṣikī is all about. We'll get into that, but then what Ānvīkṣikī is actually and where does it come from as a reference when we are talking about Chanakya and Kautilya. So in Kautilya's Arthashastra, the first book, in the first chapter, in fact, I would say, because the first chapter of Kautilya Arthashastra more focuses on the index in terms of what all are the topics covered in the Arthashastra. The second chapter, first sutra, the first word which comes in, where Chanakya is talking about different knowledges, he talks of Ānvīkṣikī. Right? That is why we call it the Prathama Vidya or the Parama Vidya, the most important knowledge or the first knowledge which the leaders needs to be given. And that is what we are exploring. The word is Ānvīkṣikī. I'm sure people who have not heard it for the first time, there will be a little challenge in terms of pronunciation. But then if you read the Sanskrit word properly, you will be able to pronounce it right. It says Ānvīkṣikī. So that's the word which we are looking at. Now, this is the sutra. I'll bring it up on the screen for all of you, where in book number 1, where we call Vinayadhikarikam. So where what are the knowledges the leader should have when we're talking of from the Arthashastra perspective. And Kautilya talks about this in this sutra, where he says, Ānvīkṣikī trayivāta dandanītīs cheti vidyaha chatastra eva vidya iti Kautilya. So Kautilya says this. What he says, that these are the 4 knowledges which the leader should have. What are these knowledges we're talking of? Is Ānvīkṣikī trayivāta dandanīti, as in the 4 different knowledges which are there. Out of that, the first one we explore, which we look at as Ānvīkṣikī, right? The next 2 is, or the next 3 are obviously Trayi, as in the 3 Vedas. At that point of time, there were 3 Vedas, not 4. Atharva Veda got added later on, post Arthashastra. Then we talk of Vata as in economics and Dandaniti as in science of politics. But the first one we focus on is Ānvīkṣikī. That is the word which we are looking at and exploring. What does Ānvīkṣikī mean? I'll quickly take up one more sutra where Chanakya talks about what Ānvīkṣikī is and how to understand Ānvīkṣikī, and I'll let Dr. Pillai share his thoughts. So the sutra, which here is, in fact, there is a short form of Ānvīkṣikī, where if someone wants to remember Anu and Ikshiki, Ānvīkṣikī, as in, though this is not the literal understanding, where atom or the smallest part or one who is curious to know, or one who wants to know, as we say. So Ānvīkṣikī or Ānvīkṣikī. We'll get into more details, but then what the sutra says is Sāṅkhya Yoga Lokāyata Cha Itya Ānvīkṣikī. The three philosophies put together, Sāṅkhya, Yoga, and Lokāyata put together becomes Ānvīkṣikī. What is this three? We'll explore it as we go ahead, but then right now I would like Dr. Pillai to share his thoughts. So, over to you.
Thank you, Pranav sir. So, for those people who have heard it for the first time, it's a very interesting topic. And every expert was once a beginner. I also came across this word first time many years ago. When I heard it, I could not pronounce it. But as I got deeper to understand this, I fell in love with this so much that it actually became like a mission in my life to understand and, of course, promote Ānvīkṣikī. So the company that I have is also named as Ānvīkṣikī, Chanakya Ānvīkṣikī Private Limited. My daughter's name is Ānvīkṣikī, and what I teach is also Ānvīkṣikī. Now, the importance of this word is so critical that there are multiple meanings. And since we work with a lot of research scholars, I met a research scholar in Pune. And as many of you know, Pune has got a very strong intellectual base traditionally. So I came to know that in Pune, there's a research project going on. And it's been going on for over 100 years now, where they are trying to decode a lot of Sanskrit words. And the project is something very interesting, where they say, okay, let us look at every word in Sanskrit, read through a lot of references, and look at various meanings. So it's been 100 years, and they're still now at the word a. Think about it. When you say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, so it's going on only one word. And for so many generations, they're looking at one letter, multiple words. And they have tried to get maximum references of this word Ānvīkṣikī. Very popular from Chanakya's perspective, from Kautilya perspective. But before you understand what Chanakya is, Ānvīkṣikī has been referred to various by various scholars in various scriptures. It's a word quite popular in the Vedas. It's popular in the Mahabharata. It's popular in Ramayana, various Upanishads. Interestingly, even modern day scholars who are creating modern day compositions are also referring and using this word Ānvīkṣikī. And in Shiva Puran, there's a discussion between Shiva and Parvati on this word Ānvīkṣikī. So it is not a new word. It's not like, we are coining something new to impress people. It was there, it will be there, and in the future also, new dimensions will get added up. As far as modern day compositions, for those who are aware of Chinmaya Mission, I've been connected with Chinmaya Mission since my childhood. The very popular previous head of Chinmaya Mission, Swami Tejomananji, is also known as a composer of Sanskrit literature. Has written many new, I would say, shlokas, and of course, a lot of compositions in Sanskrit. One of his compositions, which is the modern day composition in Sanskrit, is called as Mana Shodhanam. Mana Shodhanam, finding out your mind. In that, Ānvīkṣikī comes in, where it has been translated in English as Brahma Vidya. Of course, Swami Tejomanji talks about Ānvīkṣikī as Brahma Vidya, but various other scholars have also used the knowledge of Ānvīkṣikī is actually the knowledge of Brahma Vidya. It is the ultimate knowledge. We'll come down to other meanings of Ānvīkṣikī and also look at from the standpoint of Chanakya or Kautilya, as we call him. It means observation, Anvekshan. It means research. It means logic. It means thinking. Of course, we have said strategic thinking. But right from what is called the Brahma Vidya to observation in numbers and data mining is also Ānvīkṣikī. You'll be surprised, really? We'll see how. But before this, as you saw in the previous slide, it is Prathama Vidya. Remember, Chanakya is a teacher of leadership. He is a leadership guru Rajaguru. And like a teacher, the first thing that we do, there are two teachers here, myself and Pranav sir. As we teach, the first thing to decide is what is the syllabus, what is the deliverables, what is the outcome. Today, all the universities talk about outcome-based education. What am I going to get? So first of all, if you go into a class which Chanakya conducted in Takshashila University or later on in what is called as Magad Patna Patliputra, you will be definitely having one outcome, that is you will become a better leader, better manager, an inspiring personality. Okay. But what are we supposed to learn? There are various topics, but the first topic that you will learn is going to be actually Ānvīkṣikī. You saw in the previous slide, there are 4 vidyas which leads to making you a leader. So the syllabus has got 4 parts. Think about it, that you're attending 4 semesters. So in that 4 semesters, the first one, Ānvīkṣikī, Trai, Varta, and Dandaniti. You saw all the 4 being briefly discussed by Pranav sir. But what he says that Chatasra Vidya, 4 are the Vidyas for a leader. But we are going to break it down. Yeah, thank you. Ānvīkṣikī, Trai, Varta, Danda, Nisya, Iti Vidya. Cha means all these put together. Iti, Vidyaha. This is the knowledge for whom? The leaders. Chatasra Eva Vidya Iti Kautilya. Study these 4 and then you are done as a leader. So you study all this and leadership is definitely going to be something that you'll get as an outcome. Now let's focus on Ānvīkṣikī. I love this word because the more you think about it, the more better it becomes. Next slide. What is Ānvīkṣikī? To understand Ānvīkṣikī, the pronunciation Ānvīkṣikī initially takes some time to get a little bit for tonality. Once you get it, so we give this exercise as Anu, just to think what is Ānvīkṣikī? Thinking in minute detail, micro thinking and macro thinking. Somebody wants to know from symptoms to diagnosis to understanding the real root cause. 3 stages in the medical fraternity. It's very popular that when you go to a doctor, we actually go with certain symptoms. There is a pain, I'm feeling uncomfortable. I think there is something which is not giving me ease. Now you go with symptom, but the doctor in his field has been trained in Ānvīkṣikī. The first thing he will do or she will do is to diagnose. So from symptoms, okay, diagnose it. And therefore various tests are conducted. Certain questions are asked. How long? Where did you eat? Why have you been doing this? Since when? Is it genetical? Whatever. So these are basic symptoms to what is called diagnosis. And then you confirm, oh, this is the problem, root cause analysis, and then you say, okay, this is the solution. So that is how we say Ānvīkṣikī can be used. We'll be teaching the framework. How do you think strategically in the next slide? Yeah. So you see there are 3 words which we will try and understand. Sāṅkhya, Yoga, Lokāyata, Cha, Itya, Ānvīkṣikī. So remember, it's a combination of 3 words. Ānvīkṣikī comprises of the philosophy. In India, there is no one philosophy. In fact, I remember representing India in the World Congress of Philosophy in Athens, Greece. It's supposed to be the cradle of Western civilization. And I had gone with a whole team from University of Mumbai. My PhD guide and teacher, Dr. Shubhada Joshi, when she gave her opening remarks, she told, in India, we don't have one philosophy. We are a land of philosophies. That's a plural. But then Chanakya picks up 3 philosophies of his generation. Now it's evolving also. Many more philosophies are added, but what was available then? And then he combines 3 of them to bring out his own philosophy. That's creativity. That's innovation in philosophy. So what are the 3 philosophies? Sāṅkhya, Yoga, and Lokāyata. I'm sure many of you have heard about the first 2. So I would request Pranav sir to go into details. What is Sāṅkhya, Yoga, philosophy? And Indian philosophy is very broad. We'll try and cover up a few of them today also. Over to you, Pranav sir.
Thank you very much, sir. So yes, we are talking of different Indian philosophies, as sir said, and Dr. Shubhra Joshi had mentioned that India is a land of philosophies. But what are these philosophies, and what do we call them in our Indian manner? We use the word darshanas, and Shat darshanas is what we all would have heard of, and then obviously the 9 darshanas, and the Nava darshanas, which we talk of. So let's have a quick glimpse at what these philosophies are, what this different philosophies that we talk of, and then again come back to Ānvīkṣikī and understand what Chanakya would have meant in that. So when we talk about the philosophies, there are 9 Indian philosophies which come here. It is on your screen, which we talk of. Number 1, Sāṅkhya, given by Kapila Muni. Yoga, obviously very famous these days, given by Patanjali. Nyaya, given by Gautama Muni. Vaisheshika, given by Kanada Muni. Mimamsa, given by Gemini. Vedanta, given by Veda Vyasa, as we talk of. These are 6 Vedic philosophies that we talk of, which are based on the Vedas. Apart from that, there are 3 non-Vedic philosophies which we talk of, which is Buddhism, given by Gautama Buddha, Jainism, given by Mahavira, and Lokāyata, given by Charuvaka, also known as the Charuvaka philosophy because given by Charuvaka. These are 9 Indian philosophies which we talk of. Different schools of thoughts is what we can say for that matter, but these are all comprising of Indian way of thinking. All of them reflect upon different manners in which we can explore a philosophical understanding towards life, towards universe, towards the whole cosmic existence of humans as a whole. So these are the philosophies, out of which when Chanakya says Ānvīkṣikī, he says you need to understand 3 philosophies put together. Which are this? We talk of Sāṅkhya, Yoga, and Lokāyata, because in this sutra he points out, he says Ānvīkṣikī comprises of the philosophy of Sāṅkhya, Yoga, and Lokāyata. Right? What is Sāṅkhya? I'll quickly run through and give a brief. Obviously, in our programs, we go more into detail and understand Sāṅkhya in depth. In fact, Sāṅkhya by itself is a course which HUA offers and can be a detailed study of Sāṅkhya for that matter. But then Sāṅkhya more or less focuses on Purusha and Prakriti and the Atman, which we talk of. And it's a Dvaitic philosophy where we talk of the soul and the soul and the body being 2 different things. We talk of the material world and the spiritual world, 2 different worlds in itself. And this gives us an understanding of what the materialism is all about also. Total amount, Sāṅkhya, and that is why the word Sāṅkhya somewhere comes in from that total amount of the material, the Prakriti which we talk of, which can be quantified in terms of physical world, is what Sāṅkhya focuses, and also gives us obviously gives us the understanding of Purusha also. But then Prakriti, when we focus, it focuses of Sāṅkhya and it gives us. So more or less, if I have to quickly in like a span of this 30 seconds or a minute give you an understanding of Sāṅkhya philosophy, it will probably take years for us to understand the philosophy as a whole, but it will more or less lead to quantification or giving us numeric understanding of the world. And that's where Sāṅkhya or Sāṅkhya as in the word comes in. Next thing comes in yoga, obviously very well known to a lot of us these days. However, yoga, not looking at the physical exercise part of yoga, because I see yoga being used in a lot of funny manners these days. There's power yoga, yoga for yoga. Yoga is what it has become. And people talk of weight loss yoga for, you do programs for weight loss and do yoga for that matter. However, yoga is a lot more holistic as compared to what we understand from that perspective. And then yoga more or less is about having that balanced, equanimous mind, which is there. The mind which is in Bhagavad Gita, as we talk of Sthita Prajna, the balanced mind which is there, and what practices should be followed. How do we go about doing that? In fact, the Ashtanga yoga is what we explore in our class, the 8 levels of yoga to reach samadhi eventually. But then that's how yoga is to be understood, for that balanced, equanimous mind which is there. And then finally comes in Lokāyata, is more to do with in terms of the material physical world, because Lokāyata philosophy which Charuvaka Muni has given, in that he purely focuses on Adibhautik understanding. And when I'm saying Adibhautik, we have to understand that Indian philosophy somewhere is divided into 3 levels. We talk of Adibhautik, which is more to do with the material world. Adi Devik, as in more to do with the metaphysical world which we talk of, or the karma kand, pujas that we do. And then obviously Adhyatmik, or the spiritual world which we speak of. And in Lokāyata, the philosophy, where Charuvak, he purely focuses on the Adi Bhautik part. In fact, in Charuvak philosophy, when we study, he doesn't even believe in rebirth. He believes this is where your life is, this is where your existence is, and whatever you do, you're going to reap the fruits in this life itself. So that's the kind of philosophy which it focuses on. But then what we understand from it when we put these three together is that we quantify. When we analyzing things from an Ānvīkṣikī perspective, we quantify things. We look at things from a numbers perspective. Any situation, anything that we are thinking of, try and quantify it, because that will give us a lot of better understanding, because it will give us a reference in terms of how much size we are talking of, what is the impact we are talking of, what is how much management is required behind handling that kind of a quantity. That's why the quantification comes in from Sāṅkhya. Yoga gives us that balanced mind in terms of handling a situation, understanding a situation, giving that insight into something. And then Lokāyata gives us that practical solution. It gives us that solution to achieve the result which we are looking at. And that's where the Lokāyata philosophy of Charvak comes into picture. So this three put together becomes Ānvīkṣikī. We would love to do some kind of an exercise behind it, but then I would say, as a part of the webinar, we won't be able to do that as quickly in that sense. But then I would say I'll take up one more example to understand a little more of Ānvīkṣikī, which we see here. Is that comes in this sutra which is there, where in 1.9.4 of Kautilya Arthashastra, Chanakya says, Pratyaksha Parokshanumeya hi Raja Vritti. Three words which is there in this: Pratyaksha, Paroksha, and Anumeya. The affairs of the leaders are of three kinds: directly perceived, unperceived, and inferred. What does he say? What does this sutra mean? And where does Ānvīkṣikī come into picture? So pratyaksha, as in front of me, I see something in front of me, evidence. I see the evidence and I have a proof of something. In research world, we call it the first reference, or the first evidence which is there, primary evidence as a word. And for example, I see fire. I see fire in front of me and I say that is fire which is there. Next thing comes in is parokshaya, as in the unperceived which we talk of. I have not seen fire, but there's someone who comes to me and tells me that there is fire somewhere. Right? So there's secondary source of information, as we say, coming through someone which is there is parokshaya, or unperceived. And third thing which comes into picture is anumeya, or anumana, which is inferred. Now understand, we are using the word inferred, not guesswork. What is happening is, I see people running. I see there is smoke. So when people are running, there is smoke. So I am inferring, I'm putting in that reasoning, I'm putting in that logic that yes, because there is smoke, there are people running, there must be fire. So that is inferred. And Ānvīkṣikī somewhere is an Anumana Vidya. It is about the strategic way of thinking to understand the unseen, which is there. Joining the dots, putting the reasoning and understanding is what Ānvīkṣikī would lead to. So as I again said, it is not guesswork. It is not just guessing something, but it's logically with reasoning when we come up to a conclusion. That what Ānvīkṣikī is, when we investigate things and then understand, it is what Ānvīkṣikī is all about. So this is what the overall understanding of Ānvīkṣikī is. We can really get into more and more details of this whole subject for that matter. But then here on this webinar, I would say this quick overview of Ānvīkṣikī is what we can share. So I would like you also to share some thoughts on the philosophies and obviously Ānvīkṣikī as well.
Absolutely. So in this particular framework, it's very interesting. So where you actually look at what, is the way of thinking. So before we start, the typical understanding of a lot of people, and to some extent even a misunderstanding, is about yoga. Yoga is very popular today, but at the very basic level, all about yogasanas, pranayama. And one spiritual guru used to tell you, it's not pranayama, it's shwasayana. So you're only controlling the breath and calling it prana. Prana is a different level. There are pancha pranas and there are other 5 pranas to each prana of pancha. So actually 25 pranas. So you start with the breath, but that's not pranayama. That is shwasayana. So controlling the breath is the starting point of pranayama, but that's not pranayama. In the similar way, when you look at yoga asanas, because it is very visible and you can practice something, has become very popular. And definitely today we have the International Day of Yoga, and people say, wow, I'm practicing yoga. Really? That's the physical part of it. One day, one person went to a particular very highly evolved yoga teacher, and the yoga teacher did not know this student. I said, okay, come sit. So, yeah, I came here to learn yoga. And then he gave a 1 hour lecture on what is yoga. Yoga is a great philosophy of the land of India. Patanjali Yoga Sutra, you should read and all those things. After 1 hour, the teacher realized his mistake. He said, okay. So he was going on and on about references, where yoga started, and Shivji being called the Adi Yogi, his way of looking at yoga. All he went on and on. After 1 hour, the student said, sir, ये सब ठीक है, all this is fine, but tell me how to do yoga. Tell me how to do yoga. Now, he said, oh, I should have just told him, take 3 breaths, sit quietly, stretch your hands. I wasted my 1 hour. Now, the problem with our orientation and the so-called scientific generation that we are born in, for us, thinking means only one part, which is data mining. If you look at information, is not a problem today. And if you look at the big companies, not only in US, but any company in any part of the world, I think data science is the very foundations of strategy. We're not denying it. Data is part of it, but data is not strategy. So people look at reports, numbers, Sāṅkhya. Yes, that's important. But how can you say that only data is the part of strategic thinking? It starts with data. Yoga may start with Shwasayan or Pranayam, but there is the highest level called Samadhi. If you study the Ashtanga Yoga, you have to evolve. So at the beginning level, definitely we'll think strategic at the worldly level. Then, as Pranav sir showed that slide also, there are different methods of thinking, and it's a huge subject, by the way. Chanakya or the Ānvīkṣikī that we're learning is a small part of it. But then look at Pratyaksha, Paroksha, Anumaya. There are many more. Shabda Praman is there. What is the proof? One of the problems that we find in the legal system in countries like India, it's very evidence-based. Evidence-based. So proof in the scientific world or even the academic world, it is called references. Show me, where did you get the reference from? My point is that it's come to such an extent that we manipulate references or we manipulate proofs just to prove our point. But Ānvīkṣikī says, wait, is data, references, records, proofs the only way of understanding the truth? There are many other methods. And one of them to find out the truth is the intention behind the act. I'll repeat, the intention behind the act. And that's also strategic thinking. Thinking is not just diagnosing the activity. Thinking is not just looking at what is seen, or I would say what is shown. Thinking is going beyond. It is insight. It's also foresight. Something that cannot be measured by numbers, but something that can also be measured in numbers. I was at IIT Bombay just last week, and it's for many of you who have studied or gone to IITs. Pranav sir used to teach there in IIT Kharagpur. So there's a very famous saying: India's greatest contribution in the current generation is the kind of people who we have produced, or I would say, given to the world. So that's the part of scientific development and education that Indians had. IITs, IIMs, all these institutions, I go there, I take lectures there. They're very, very data driven. Nothing wrong in that. But Indian philosophy is not just this. We have scientific temperament. We need to develop that. We cannot deny that. Yet, what about philosophical dimensions? Slowly, we are coming back to that. So the point here is that in Ānvīkṣikī, we look at numbers, but we don't limit to numbers. So Sāṅkhya, Yoga, and definitely Lokāyata. There is one method I like to share with you as we're studying Ānvīkṣikī. Remember, it is not part of Ānvīkṣikī, but it's a part of Indian tradition in what we call discussion. Indian tradition is all about Q&A. It's about discussion. The Guru Sishya Parampara is about Varta. Varta is discussion also, not just news. Or here the Varta is economics. No, here one of the is Samvad, Vad Varta. So in Samvad, one of the techniques that we use is actually a technique called the Shastriya Parampara. Just remember this. It's not part of Ānvīkṣikī. It's called Purva Paksha and Uttara Paksha. When we're discussing, we're looking at data. The data or the information that you gathered need to have two dimensions. Purva, what did the ancestors say? And Uttara Paksha, what did the later on people say? I have added three more to it. And I was presenting a paper in the Somaya University for a seminar on IKS last Saturday, Indian Knowledge System. I said, Purva Paksha, Uttara Paksha, but what about Para Paksha? Think about opposite also. So when you're discussing, you don't look at only proof, but what if goes wrong? It's called contingency plan. So think about that also, backup plan. Chanakya includes that. Purva Paksha, Uttara Paksha, Para Paksha. And then comes Nutana Paksha. Can you look at from a new dimension? Yeah, the same thing can give you insight in a different way, new. That's where innovation comes in. And finally, Mama Paksha, my view. One of the problems that happens in strategic thinking is that you get so carried away by other data, other information that you forget that you have to analyze and bring in your own viewpoint or insight. Chanakya makes sure that he has got an originality. When we go back to Arthashastra, there are a lot of topics, more than 180 topics that has been debated, discussed. The Purvacharyas, what did he say? He has got reference of more than 14 acharyas of the past. Shukracharya, Brihaspati, it goes on and on. And they said this, they said this. But then you say, wait, at the end of all these things, I also have to say something. I have to also contribute. So all of us should know that strategic thinking is not just about the past. It's not just about the present, what is seen. It's also about the future and something that may not be visible also. So a great topic. Remember, as information is getting more and more easy to access, today everything is available thanks to modern technology and a democratic way of information. It's available. The last man in the last village has got the same access for somebody sitting in New York or Mumbai or maybe in a president's office or a prime minister's office. Today, the world is actually flat when it comes to information. Yet, information is not strategic thinking. I have a very deep concern, especially when I go to universities. They're so well informed, the students. Sometimes it looks like a danger to me. Yet I said, okay, you're more informed than me, but can you bring in strategic thinking? Can you bring out something original, some innovation aspect to it? That's where Ānvīkṣikī comes in. Don't get lost in data. There's this joke I would like to share before I hand it over to Pranav sir about getting lost in data and losing focus on your role. Getting lost in data and losing focus on your role in the world of data. There was a person, he was totally frustrated. And he was so frustrated that he said, there is no point in living. I want to commit suicide. So nothing was going on right. His career was in a mess. His relationships was in a mess. His financial situations, everything was in a mess. He said, there is no hope. And then he decides that I will end my life. It's said that he climbs a bridge and then he wants to jump and commit suicide. As he just is getting ready to jump, the policeman observes him. He comes and stops him. No, that's the part of the duty of a policeman to stop, not only crime, but also to stop somebody who's doing activities like this. So he stops him. And a policeman is also trained to be a counselor. Yeah. So what is the counselor? He says, listen, don't give up on life, some motivational lectures. So it's a counseling that he is trained in. So he catches him saying, don't commit suicide. Life will always be good. Hope for the best. Even this will pass away. If you require some help, I'll talk to the government. All that. But this guy doesn't give up. He's so negative in his mindset. His psychology has become so negative. He says, you have given me enough counseling. I will tell you my real problem. Come sit. Nothing is going right in my life. This happened, that happened, this happened, that happened. For half an hour, this person started telling his problems. And you know what happened at the end of it? The policeman started committing suicide. So he committed suicide. This is what happens in the world of information. So much to gather. And today, in the world of fake news, or I would say misinformation, you don't know what is real. But you get so lost in it, you lose direction. So coming back, Sāṅkhya is a starting point, yet yoga, Lokāyata. So the framework is to go beyond numbers, but start with numbers. From quantitative to qualitative analysis, Ānvīkṣikī covers all paradigms of thinking. Arnav sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, sir. In fact, this example which sir shared reminds me of an advice which he gave me at one point of time. When I was studying the Kautilya Arthashastra, and then I spoke to him in a discussion, I said, sir, we should study the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and other Vedas. And they said, so he said, yes, you should definitely study, not that you should not study, but focus on one Shastra, focus on one, keep doing that sadhana behind one and one. And that is what his success in life has been also. So, Kautilya Arthashastra is the only Shastra. One thing, keep doing it. So, Chit Ekagrata, as we say, is one of the big challenges in today's time. We talk of ADHD, people having that attention disorder, where people are not able to stick to one thing, 30-second reels, moving from one topic to the other. The internet is so exploratory that you start researching on one topic, go to some word, you find something there, you go on to something else, and then you go on to a different topic altogether, and you forget where you started from. So, we at times we say that, we is looking for a solution, we're looking for a solution. We eventually found the solution, but then we forgot by the time we found the solution that what the problem was by itself. So that is what becomes, so that focusing on a particular thing becomes very, very important. The Chit Ekagrata, which we talk of, obviously comes in also from the yogic understanding, or yoga tells us to focus on something in that manner, the equanimous, the balanced mind which is there. All right. So going ahead from here,
Sir, you got muted.
Am I audible? Am I audible, sir?
Yeah.
No, not yet.
So am I audible? I think I'm not audible to you.
Yeah, I can hear.
All right.
Yeah, please continue.
Okay. Thank you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend a couple of minutes on another thinking model which Kautilya Arthashastra speaks of. And the reason why I'm taking it up here is because when we do our programs and we understand Kautilya Arthashastra, this is a structure, I would say a construct which Chanakya shares in terms of how a state should be, or how an organization should be. An institute should be understood from this particular structure which is there, and I will quickly run through that because we are also short of time. So here is the structure on your screen which is there, which Chanakya talks of in book number 6, so chapter number 1, sutra number 1, where it comes in, it says Swami Amatya Janapada Durga Kosha Dandani Danda Mitrani Prakriteyaha. This is nature, Prakrite. This is the 7 things which are nature. What is this 7 things which he talks of? The king, the minister, the country, the fortified city, the treasury, the army, and the ally are the constituent elements of a state. Now here in the translation, we see it as a constituent elements of a state, because that is what Kautilya Arthashastra talks about, how a state should be governed, how a state should be run, and how a state looks like. But then when we look at the sutra, the Sanskrit sutra, he uses the word Mitrani Prakriteyaha. It is nature. This is nature's 7 elements which are there. Now, if I have to look at it from a present day context, in modern day, how do we apply it? The Swami, he talks of number 1, the king. And I would say in present day, we would put it up as the leader of an organization, someone who is leading an organization. Second comes in the Amatya, the minister, the second in commands. No, the CEO has a lot of other CXOs, as we say these days, because the X is something which keeps changing. CFO, CHRO, CMOs, CIOs. It keeps going on and on these days. So CXOs, the second in command, who are there, the second line. In fact, the head of the country also has the ministers around as the second in command. So the Amatya. Then he talks of Janapada as in the country or the market, the people whom we serve, the people for whom an organization works. These are eventually the service has to be dedicated, the product has to be dedicated to these people who are there. So we look at Janapada in that sense. Durga as in the fortified city, or in present day we would put it as infrastructure. Infrastructure nowadays is gone beyond physical infrastructure, right? We talk of digital infrastructure, we talk of data servers, data farms, we talk of all the cloud servers which are there, including all your hostings which is there in terms of emails, your websites, all that becomes digital infrastructure. So infrastructure as a whole is what Chanakya focuses on when he talks of Durga. Kosha, obviously not much to speak about, but the finance, accounting, the moolas, the money which is there, the treasury part of the organization. Danda, as in the army or the team, the people who work. These are people who are actually making things happen. These are your people who are working on the shop floor. These are people who are working in the admin team, the sales team. All those people who are making things happen are people who are a part of your team, the army, which we talk of. And finally, he talks of another element, which is mitra, a friend, ally, someone who is not a part of my organization, is an organization or a person in himself, an entity in himself, but has a win-win situation with me. He helps me grow, I help him grow. So this can be someone like your suppliers, your vendors, your chartered accountants, your lawyers, your consultants who come in. So they work with you for the development of your organization, at the same time their own growth, but they are somewhere not physically part of the same organization. So this is what we explore as mitras, the friends who are there. A model which we discuss in detail when we do our program on the Kautilya Arthashastra, which is there in the 21 principles of leadership for the 21st century. That is what we do here. So before I get into details of the program, sir, some final words from you, and then I will share about this program which is upcoming in the next month, that is January, so that people who are interested can join in as well.
Thank you. So this is a very interesting framework that we see in Arthashastra called the Saptanga. Basic Sanskrit, Sapta and Anga. Sapta is 7, Anga is parts. The 7 parts of a kingdom is what Chanakya talks about. But today, leadership is in every field. It's not just limited to a kingdom. It can be a corporation, which is also a small startup or a multinational. It can be a government institution. It can be a country by itself, a large country. It can be a sports team. It can be a military unit. So look at leadership being used from this framework. Pranav sir spoke about all this Saptanga, but what is very interesting is that along with strategic thinking, these 7 put together makes a great organization. Yet it is very human-centric. Why do I say human-centric? Look at this Saptanga, 7 parts, Swami, Amatya, Janapada, Durga, Kosha, Danda, Mitra. Directly, 5 of them deal with human beings. First one, Swami, human being. Amatya, human being. Janapada, the people, human being. Then Danda, human being. And Mitra, human being. Now, 5 major factors of 7, that's a large percentage, is actually human-centric. But the remaining 2, that is Kosh, Durga and Kosha, have to be managed by human beings. So Durga and infrastructure which physical is created by human beings. Kosha, the finance that we talk about, managed by human beings. So even though a lot of people say it's all about profitability, it's about making value creation in terms of finance, one part of it. But also depends on the human beings who are working towards that finance. And most important, apart from being financially stable today, organizations are judged by the planet, the ecosystem, the environment that you create, and also compliance. Again, you come back to human centricity. I like to wind up here with what is generally called as the management evolution. Only yesterday I was teaching this particular chapter, the history and the evolution of management science. So I'm taking some lectures for management students. So what is called the general industrial era. In the industrial era, everything was about productivity, efficiency, and all my friends from US may be aware, the Ford model actually changed the management perspective where the assembly line was how can we get more and more done from less and less people, time, resource, money. But then as things evolve, today we see various industries where it is not just about productive efficiency, it's also about mental health. Are people happy? Today, we talk about a country like Bhutan where GDP and beyond GDP. Okay, can we have happiness index? So organizations are saying, okay, can we be more human centered? But that is what Chanakya spoke about. Everything is important, but finally, humans and finally the leader who is going to lead the organization has to be human centered. But it's very important that we understand human beings are not resource, they are the very source. So as we make it more human, and if the leader, he or she, has a top-down approach to look at more from a human perspective, then it's great leadership. What beautiful psychology behind this. I'm also writing a book on leadership and psychology, which I will talk about some other time. But this one aspect of leadership that we have to connect back, that is human centricity. So finally, I like to say that in the world of AI, a lot of human beings' brains and intellect is being outsourced or being duplicated or automated through AI. Yet NI, natural intelligence, will never lose its flavor. It has to be a combination of AI and NI. So Saptang and Chanakya talks about how we can make it more human-centric and move forward and become great leaders. Thank you, Pranav.
Thank you very much, sir. In the interest of time, I will quickly like to go through the course which is coming up and share details in the next couple of minutes. So the program which is coming up is a course which is for students where they'll be able to understand, learn, and implement leadership principles and models as taught in Chanakya's Kautilya Arthashastra. We looked at two simple models here, as in Ānvīkṣikī, and then we also saw a quick glimpse into the Saptanga model. We go into more and more details of such models which Chanakya talks of in the program in the Kautilya Arthashastra. So this is what the program is all about. When does it start? We're starting it on January 11th, which will go on till March 22nd next year. Next month, as we say. This will be on Sunday evenings for people who are in the United States, 9 p.m. EST, and Monday mornings for people who are in India, 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. till the time daylight saving is going on. A 60 minutes lecture, 30 minutes discussion is what we have in this class, which goes on for around 90 minutes. People who are attending this program are supposed to, at the end of the program, write a small essay and try and explore how this principles which we talk of, the models which we discuss in class, can be applied by them in their workplaces, their personal lives, their family lives, their own businesses which they have, and see how a present day context can be found out with the principles which is there. So that's how the major part of the program is designed. Apart from that, there are also MCQs which is there, and also some case studies which needs to be regularly studied. So there will be homework every week. Some case studies to study, some books to read, also some serials, some episodes of a particular serial, or some videos which are shared to be watched and discussed in class. So that is how the whole class goes on. Who should attend? People who are senior executives and managers, people who are leaders looking at getting into leadership position, public sector leaders and policy makers, because Arthashastra is a book on administration and how a state should be governed and run. So people who are working in the public sector or having policy making as a part of their profession should attend. Academics and scholars interested in knowing Indian knowledge systems, IKS as we talk of, or Kautilya Arthashastra, Indian leaderships principles to focus on, are ones who should attend. Entrepreneurs and business leaders, people who run their own organizations, have their own businesses, these are people who should also attend. Leadership consultants and coaches, so people who are consultants, who are mentors, who are trainers, who run courses on leadership, are the ones who should also attend this program, because there's a lot more which they can gain and use in their practices. So these are the, I would say, ideal people who should join. Apart from that, anyone else also who is in a regular professional life can also join in the program. So I would say it's a generic program, more or less, from that perspective. Again, same thing, starting on 11th of January, going on till March 22nd. This is, if someone is taking up the Hindu studies course, this will give them 1.5 credit for the program as well. So as people who are gathering credits for doing a postgraduate program in Hindu studies will also be able to join this program and gather the credits out of it. So that's more or less. There are some scholarships available from the HUA perspective. So people who are living in Greater Bharat, which we talk of as in Bharat, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Malaysia, Maldives, and Indonesia, or people who are in Girimitra countries also. So Malaysia, Seychelles, South Africa, Fiji, Suriname, Jamaica, Trinidad, and Tobago. These are countries where people residing and joining in the program will get special a scholarship. You just need to write to HUA about your country where you're from and what are you doing and why do you would like to apply for the scholarship. So that is more or less from our end. Ankur bhai, something from you before we end.
Yeah, always amazing. You went through all of it with the course and the details. I did put it in the chat so you can click through and read a little bit more, apply for the scholarship. I think Kavita ji just enrolled. I love it when people enroll during the webinar. Really glad. Thank you, Kavita ji. I'm sure you're going to enjoy the course. So everyone, if you're interested, I took this course, I think it must be like 4 quarters ago now. Amazing course. The people you meet, it's just a great experience. If you enjoyed today's webinar, you will definitely like the course. And it is what you put into it, right? If you do all the readings, you pay attention, you absorb the information, you engage in the conversation, you get a lot out of it. And if you want to just enjoy and learn from these wonderful gentlemen, Pranav Bhai obviously knows so much and he's doing so well and shares the information. And Radhakrishnan ji, the expert in the field. So just an amazing experience. So I can't recommend it enough. And you join the Hindu University of America family. You get your HUA.edu ID. You connect and join us on this longer term mission, right? It's not just about one course or a couple of conversation. This is how to elevate yourself, right? Your own skills, your capacity, and how to contribute to our society, our civilization, whether you're in India or in America or wherever you may be. So just glad to be a part of it. Thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. Definitely thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, that's it for me. If I think maybe Radhakrishnan ji, you have some other closing thoughts, but I'll give it back to both of you if you want to share anything else.
Keep studying, keep learning, become an expert, and share it with others.
Thank you. Yeah, that's about it. So thank you very much. Really a pleasure doing this webinar once again and looking forward to interacting with all of you in the program.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.